good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you. We're going to go over chew. Hope you're all today. Hope you're all around the world. Welcome to another Q&A Wednesday. Let's get to question one straight away. Okay, so question one today is I'm getting a very, very big sound from my DS2 when I turn it on. Help me. I get this quite a lot. People saying, oh, the DS2's doing this, that, and the other, and it's screaming at me and doing all sorts of things. Especially if you kind of say we're like full gain and full level. The DS2 just does that. It's a very, 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 very noisy pedal, the DS2 is. I mean, when I just turn it on, it immediately feeds back. You know, so what my advice to you when anybody using a DS2, especially with it maxed out, is it's a pedal that you turn on when you need it, and as soon as you don't need it anymore, you turn it off. And while it's on, you can't really stop playing because you get the rain noise. It's raining outside, everybody. No, it's not. It's just my DS2. Anyway, but yeah, the DS2 is a very noisy pedal. You can hear it when like Kurt Cobain uses it, because like it's really cool. Because you can just kind of like just walk up to it and just go like this, and it just immediately start going mad. You know, it's immediate like that. So it's basically, if you're playing, you need to turn it on when you want it and turn it off immediately. So if you're kind of... You know, you can't really stop playing with it. Your solos have to flow with the DS2. You can't kind of do the... like that kind of blues, kind of B.B. King playing. Get that, and it's noisy. With a DS2 maxed out, especially kind of like the way John Frusciante uses it, your solos need to flow and you can't really stop. It's just one of those things you'll turn off and on when you need it. You don't want to be kind of like, you know, leaving it on really all the time, unless you're playing obviously, you know, constantly. But yeah, so don't worry about the DS2 making noise. Everyone who asks this kind of question, and the person who asked this question, it's totally normal for it to literally scream at you. And it's even more funny when you're on a distortion before it as well. So if I put my governor on, now I put the DS2 on. Oh, actually, I'll tell you what, let's put the governor and the jackhammer on, which is already hissing, and then you put the DS2 on, it does this. So yeah, it gets pretty noisy. So yeah, turn it on when you need it, turn it off as soon as you don't need it. Yes, I hope that's answered your question. Moving on to question 2 now. Okay, so question 2 today is, what Strat guitar would you recommend for a budget of about £500? Okay, there's a few. There's the vintage V6 Icon. They're really, really awesome guitars. You could probably get a Mexican Fender for that price as well. Depending on how good it is. I mean, this goes for all guitars though. I mean, sometimes guitars aren't great. It's definitely preferable to like try before you buy, really. Yeah, so there's like a vintage V6, a Mexican Fender. You can probably get a Mexican Fender. What else? Revelation do a 62 kind of in the style of a 62 Strat. Hopefully, I'm going to ask them soon if I can get my mitts on one to demo for you lovely people, because it looks awesome. There's also the Squier Classic Vibe as well, and the Classic Vibe is unreal. So that would be the 4 I would recommend: the vintage V6, a Mexican Fender, the Revelation, I think it's called Revelation RT62. I don't know. I can't actually remember the number, but it's like basically like a 62 Strat copy, and also the Squier Classic Vibe, which I cannot talk highly enough about the Classic Vibe. It's just ridiculous, that guitar. The Classic Vibe is just ridiculous amounts of awesomeness for your money. So that would be the 4 I would recommend, definitely, out of that, in that kind of range. I'm sure there's others. You could probably pick up a second-hand Tokai if you're lucky, but it depends on if it's good or not, and if it speaks to you. I mean, that's really the most important thing when it's buying a guitar, is does the guitar speak to you? You know, when you pick it up and play it, does it kind of like connect with you? Because if it doesn't connect, then you want to move on to another one. You know, you have to be able to kind of like, you know, feel the guitar, if that makes any sense. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, those 4 definitely are the ones I would recommend, especially the classic vibe. I can't sing the praises of the classic vibe enough. I really can't, especially for the budget. If you've got a budget of about £500, I think they're about 4 something. I forget offhand. But yeah. Is there anything else? I can't think of anything else. So those 4 are the ones I'd recommend. So I hope that's answered your question. Moving on to question 3 now. 1, 2, 3. Haha, I can count. Oh. Okay, so question 3. I'd like to thank this person first of all for sharing his mental health story with me. He emailed me, and it was a really, really honest email. He was talking about, like, you know, what happened to him at school and this, that, and the other, and how he'd been bullied, and, like, you know, and how he struggles with, you know, his mental health. And I've got to say, thank you very much indeed for your email. It was, you know, thanks for sharing your story with me. Thank you very much indeed. So yeah, I mean, that's paramount there. Like, thank you very much indeed. You also you asked your question was, you use unconventional EQ. When you start with an amp, how do you dial in the EQ? Is it the same every time, or is it different every situation? It varies what tone I'm after, really. I mean, if I'm setting an amp up for me to just mess around on, normally what I do, if it's a 2-channel amp, I'll set the clean channel to kind of like a John Frusciante-esque sound, and then the distortion channel I'll set for just full gain. I'm not one for kind of like lowering the gain. I like getting flat out all the time. I'm not like one. I'll lower the gain sometimes if I'm playing, like, you know, something like Peter Green stuff. But most of the time I just just max the gain and just roll the volume down on my guitar just to clean it up. But EQ wise, if it's a clean channel, that's pretty much different every time. The way I set my MGs up to the way I set the CR120 up to the way I set up my PV Rage or my PV Bandit, they're all different. On the clean channel, they're all very, very different. So, for instance, on the clean channel of the CR120, I tend to run treble and bass at 2. That's where I found I like it. I mean, there's quite a lot of experimenting. And with my Marshall MGs, I tend to run like bass, middle, and treble. Bass is at 2, middle's at 3, treble's at 1. So it's different every time on the clean channel, but distortion channels, it's normally like EQ either all the way off and gain all the way up and channel volume all the way up, or on on certain occasions like my MGs or the CR120, I'll have gain all the way up. I'll have a little bit of bass, maybe bass turned to like 2 on the MGs, and normally have it about 5 depending of the sound I'm after. But mainly on the gain channels, I tend to keep the treble and middle and presence, if it's got a presence, flat down, always 0. Especially with distortion. I've always found my sound with the EQ down. There is exceptions to that rule though. So it is kind of different every time. The custom amp I used to have, the KG100, I had to run the mids flat out on that amp to get the sound I wanted. The mids all the way down was scooped out, and the mids all the way up was the sound I liked, which was really nice actually to be able to use the EQ for a change. But it is different every time, and it depends really what kind of tone I'm going after. If I'm playing a Les Paul, I tend to have the gain lower and the mids higher. But if I'm playing the Strats like I pretty much always do, or my Jaguar or my Revelation quad, I tend to just have the gain flat out, channel volume flat out, and the EQ all the way on 0 for distortion. Clean channels varies depending really. So it is kind of different every time, but not. My kind of go-to setting for an amp, if I'm just plugging straight in, is to go straight to the distortion channel crank up the gain, crank up the channel volume if it's got one, if it's like a 2-channel amp, and basically just ride and put all the EQ to 0 and ride my volume control to get it to kind of clean up. And also kind of, you know, if I plug in and I put bass, middle and treble all at 0 and it's a little bit too dull, I'll boost the mids. I've never really touched treble. I hate the treble dial. I've never really touched treble. I've never really... There's only a handful of times I can think of where I've actually used the treble dial on an amplifier. So yeah, it is different every time. But like I said, I've always just found my sounding does the EQ flat, especially on a distortion channel, which I use 99.9% of the time, and just to say, just ride the volume control. Yeah, I don't know. It's just the way I found what works for me, if that makes any sense. It's a bit, I don't know. I suppose it comes across as a bit weird, but it's just what's worked for me, really. But it is kind of different every time on clean channels. Distortion channels, not so much, really. Okay, so I hope I answered your question. And again, thank you so much for being, really, for telling me your story, your mental health story. I appreciate you being really open with me, and that's really, really cool. So thank you very much for that. Thank you for your question. I hope I answered your question. We're going to move on to question 4. Okie dokie. So question 4 today is, I have a Fender Classic 50s Strat with 50s pickups, 50s style pickups, and sometimes the tone gets a little bright, especially on the bridge pickup. How can I solve this? My immediate response to that would be to get your bottom tone control wired into your bridge pickup. So many people do this mod, and it's really easy. I don't know how to do it myself though, but I'm not really a technical whiz, and I don't really go into kind of like tweaking my guitars that much, to be honest with you, electric wise. But so that's definitely one thing I would recommend immediately, is getting a as I say, the bottom volume pot wired to your bridge pickup, so you can just roll off some of the highs. Another thing I would recommend as well is angling your pickup and syncing the pickup as well, syncing your pickups down. It gives you a cleaner, clearer sound, and it can darken the sound as well. What I do normally is I angle my pickups kind of like downwards, so the bass sides here, so the E, A and D are kind of like on this side, and then the G, B and E are on this side, and they're angled depending on the guitar, quite drastically or not very drastically. On this it's fairly subtle. But that's another thing you can do, is lowering your pickups. If they're really close to the string, you're going to get a lot of output and a lot of bite, but it might not necessarily be the sound you want. So just get a screwdriver and just wind your pickups down, but just be careful not to wind them down too far so they don't fall off the screws. My number one guitar, and then I tend to keep the pickups super low. Well, I tend to keep pickups super low on pretty much all my guitars. But yeah, I would recommend doing that. Tone control for the bridge pickup, and also, like I said, like syncing the pickups, especially on a 50s Strat. I've played quite a few kind of 50s reissue Strats, and I have found that, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. They can be a bit shrill and in your face, bit like, bit razor wiry. So yeah, I definitely understand what you mean there. But try winding the pickups down so they're really low. I mean, you'll lose output, but you'll gain more clarity. Like, you'll have a cleaner, clearer sound because of it, because they're not kind of wound up all the way. I don't really like pickups when they're wound up all the way. I tend to kind of gets on my nerves a little bit, the sound, especially on a Strat. It just gets a bit, like you say, like it just gets a bit shrill and in your face. So try that, and if that doesn't work, try that first, and if that doesn't work, then go to like a guitar tech or somebody who knows how to do it, and get your bottom tone control wired into your bridge pickup so you can just roll off a little bit of the highs. That's an awesome mod. It's an awesome mod. I don't know why that was never there in the first place back in '54 when the Strat came out. Up to now, I don't know why it's not kind of like a standard feature. In all fairness, I don't really touch the tones a great deal, but it is a cool thing to have. So I hope that's answered your question, and yes, let's move on to question 5 now. Oakley dokley do. Question number 5. My amp is broken. What would you recommend for a budget of 150 to 200 euros? That'll get me close to the John Frusciante tone. 150 to 200 euros. Ah, I forgot to convert this. I'm pretty sure for that price you should be able to find the Marshall MG. You should be able to find the Marshall MG 100 DFX, the 112 combo, and that will get you very, very close. And it's awesome. Awesome amp. I recently bought one, but it's being messed with. But I can't tell you anything more about that at this point in time. That's a secret for later on. But very soon. But later on, right now. But anyway, back to the question. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you should be able to get hold of, like I said, a Marshall MG DFX, the older model, not the what is it, the 100FX, the DFX, the older model. You should be able to find one of them for somewhere in that price range. I would go for one of them myself, and I would use OD1 to get close to that John Frusciante sound. That's what I use. Which one is it? This is actually, the chassis in here is actually one of them. This is a DFX chassis, and OD1 gets you really, really close. If you run the gain about 3, you'd have to kind of like tweak and, you know, mess with the EQ to kind of like, you know, to kind of dial it in for your sound. But the DFX heads, if you run them on OD1, get you really close to that John sound. They're absolutely awesome. So I would look around for one of them if you can. Other than that, PV Bandit, a red stripe, PV Bandit red stripe. You should be able to find a PV Bandit red stripe for around that price range as well. And if you can try before you buy, even better. So yeah, Marshall 100 DFX or the PV Bandit red stripe, because they're both awesome amplifiers and they're both really cheap, which is wicked because I can buy loads of them. Ah! Next question. Okay, so last question of the day. I seem to have hammered through the questions today. I don't know why that is. It just feels like this has just gone really fast. Good gravy, I don't know. Okay, so question 6 today is, does the Orange Micro Terror you can't talk today. Question 6 and he can't talk. Come on, mouth. Does the Orange Micro Terror do the Red Hot Chili Peppers / John Frusciante tone? Not really. The one I had was great, but it was only great when everything was maxed. The Micro Terror is a great amp and I love it to bits, but its versatility and its clean straight in is a bit iffy. It's great if you're going to use it with pedals to get the John sound. So say for instance, like if you use like the Micro Terror in say like a jackhammer to get you and have the, like say the Marshall jackhammer or the Tone City Golden Plexi, and you have that on all the time just to boost the amp. So you set the amp fairly clean, say gain at 5, and then you kind of like use the Golden Plexi or the jackhammer to kind of like, you know, tweak and tweeze the tone. Then yeah, I would recommend it because it's a really cool quiet amp for kind of like home use. It's really cool for that. But straight in, like, you know, if you're going to use that and say an Ibanez Wah and a DS2, you're going to struggle. There's not really a great deal. It's not the most versatile tonally, and you're going to struggle. So if you're going to have another pedal that you're going to use all the time, like I am using my jackhammer all the time, or my Tone City Golden Plexi on my overboard, then yeah, I would go for the Micro Terror. It's a really cool pedal platform. The Micro Terror is awesome for that. But straight in, no, you're going to struggle, definitely. And you also asked, does it take the DS2 and the WH10 well? On its own, yeah, but the gain has to be high and it's not really clean. It's a bit funny. Again, if you're using a pedal, it'll love them. But if you're not using an overdrive pedal, just kind of like simulating that John tone, you're going to struggle just using the amp. You also asked, how would it sound with a JCM 900 2x12 cab? Awesome. Absolutely awesome. One of the first amp I tried a Micro Terror through, way back when, was a Marshall. It was an old Marshall 412, and it sounded amazing through that. And then I plugged it through an actual JCM 900 2x12 that was on the right side of it, and it sounded awesome through that as well. So it will sound absolutely mega through a JCM 900 212 cab. They sound great through anything though. They are really good amps, but they're more an all or nothing or a pedal platform. I don't know if that makes any sense. But like I say, you will struggle just using the amp itself to get kind of John tones. It's not the most versatile amp tonally to be able to do that kind of thing. You're gonna kind of struggle. So you kind of want to if you're gonna do that, you want like something like the Tone City Golden Plexi or the Marshall Jackhammer, just to kind of like, you know, just kind of like to be able to have a bit more EQ options and dial it in a bit better and get kind of a little bit get the right kind of gain stage out of it, really. So yeah, but yeah, I hope that's answered your question anyway. But yeah, it will work really nicely with the DS2 and the Ibanez Wah if you have like an overdrive. It does work well without the overdrive, but it's not really the John tone. You have to have kind of like gain cranked. It's a bit of a pig, really. But again, you know, the micro tone is what it is, and it does what it does, and it does what it does absolutely amazingly. So, and it is versatile for what it is, but in the long run, because of its lack of EQ options, it's just got a tone. You are very limited in what you can get out of it, unless you're using pedals to enhance it, so to say. It's not too dissimilar to the natural channel on, say, like the Brent Hines Terror or the Rocker 15 Terror I just demoed. You really kind of want to use that, but you want to use pedals with it to enhance it, because on its own it's great, but like, you know, you can get a lot more out of it if you use pedals. So anyway, I hope that's answered your question. Yeah, I hope that's answered all your questions today. Okay, I've got to say thank you very much to the guy who again sent me his story about his issues with mental health. I appreciate anybody who has the guts to talk about that public. It's brilliant, and like I say, it shouldn't be stigmatized. It shouldn't be looked down upon as like being weak or whatever. It's, you know, it grinds my gears. It really gets to me, that does. So yeah, thank you very much, sir, for your story. It was, you know, it was very, very, I can't think of the words. I really literally can't think of the words. I'm just, you know, thank you. Okay, so thank you for all your questions today, and I'll see you again on Friday for another video. Yeah, have a great morning, afternoon, good evening, and goodbye now.